Episode 8. Felix regarded me quizzically. "Something wrong," he murmured. "Sorry?" I breathed. Something just came to mind. It will go away." I willed it away. Or rather, them away. Paddy Campbell's eyes, dark and intense. Felix nodded understandingly. "Your husband." It seemed prudent to lie, not to say, "No, another man," to which Felix would say, "Henri de Foix," and I'd have to say, No, another one." So many men, an embarrassment of menfolk. What was a collective noun, I wondered? Not a harem, maybe a machismo? "Yes," I gulped, that's right." "It's too soon," he said gently. He stroked a line down my cheek with his fingertip, which was nice, but again, a bit considered. He'd done it in the kitchen. Well, for heaven's sake, he was bound to have his share of moves, wasn't he? I mean, at his age. I even had some moves. Felix plucked the document off the coffee table, which seemed to have shed its pink ribbon, and made its way through from the kitchen to join us. He sank back into the sofa with it and smiled. "Tell you what, let's look at this instead, and you tell me anything you don't understand." "Okay," I agreed, rather relieved by the lack of pressure on the seduction front. He was such a nice man. No rush, in no hurry to get me into bed. Lovely. Obviously, I hadn't had sex for 5 years, but what was one more night? He put his arm around me and I curled up against him on the sofa, which was delightfully cozy and quite homely. "Incidentally, I did tell you I've had this looked over by my lawyer." "No, you didn't." "Oh, yes, it's all kosher." "Oh, good. That's excellent. Lucy will like that." Here's his card. You're welcome to ring him." He drew a business card from his pocket and gave it to me. I felt embarrassed. "Oh, no, I won't do that. I mean, if you've had it checked, it's fine." "Okay, well, you read it through. I'm just going to bung these things in the dishwasher." "Oh, I mean, do you want me to?" I made to get up. No, you stay here." He kissed my forehead. "I'm a bit anal like that on the domestic front." As he withdrew and started clattering around in the kitchen, my phone buzzed in my bag on the floor. I retrieved it and glanced at the message. It was from Nico. "Any danger of you coming home so I can resume normal teenage life, or should I resign myself to being a farmer?" I texted back quickly. "So sorry, darling. I'll be back tomorrow. Anything particular you'd like to do?" "Get drunk with my mates." I texted back. "Okay, it's just the dogs really, but if you take them out before you go, they should be fine. Maybe you could be back by midday tomorrow?" "Maybe you could, Mother." I went hot. That was cheeky. I compressed my lips, tapped away. "Just going over a document for the new house. It's quite complicated, Nico. Back tomorrow when I've seen a lawyer," I added importantly. "Ah, so you're seeing a lawyer and a vet and an artist." "I am doing nothing of the kind." "My arse." I gasped and then turned my phone off with an exasperated flourish. "What?" "Wretched children. They think their lives are so flipping important. Anyway, I've told him I'm seeing a lawyer and can't come back," I fumed. "Oh, I don't think we ever get it right." He sank down wearily beside me on the sofa. Mine were the same at that age. "Really?" "Absolutely." Answered back continually, and if I was so much to mention another woman after I'd split up with their mother, they wanted her name, age, rank, and serial number, particularly Octavia. Quite normal then for us single parents. Totally. They're just being protective. "Yes, I mean, I suppose," I sighed. That was nice of him. He could have said, "What needy children you've got. Just tell them to buzz off." "I'd tell them to buzz off if I were you." I blinked rapidly. So I take it you'd like to see my chap. Changed your mind? Sorry? You told your son you were seeing a lawyer. Oh, no, I flushed, embarrassed. No, I absolutely haven't. I was just saying that to get him off my back. Just a tiny white lie. No, I totally trust you, Felix. I hesitated. I suppose I thought I might put it in front of Lucy's boyfriend, though. Ah, I see. Felix went a bit quiet. But I don't have to, I said quickly. Oh, heavens no. Good idea. Always worth a second opinion. That's what I thought. Although I will go through it with you very, very thoroughly, Molly. He turned and regarded me earnestly, picking it up again. Okay, let's see. I, Molly Faulkner, do hereby declare. He started to read it aloud to me, explaining the clauses he thought that might be complicated or open to misinterpretation. And the trouble was, it was longer than I had originally thought, which surprised me for a rental agreement. I mean, quite a few pages. Or perhaps that was standard? Also, rather inconveniently, my head was beginning to swim. It felt terribly heavy, which was odd because I hadn't had that much to drink. A couple of glasses of champagne. Probably the same with the wine, which didn't sound an awful lot. But perhaps it was. I certainly wasn't used to drinking much at home. After David had died, I'd sunk a bottle of wine a night, which had horrified me, so I'd knocked it on the head and stuck to 2 glasses. Obviously, I drank more if I went out, but I didn't go out much, and certainly not on consecutive evenings. And this London life was relentless, wasn't it? Gosh, I felt weird. I put a hand to my head. Concentrating. He smiled down at me, seeing my eyes glazed over as he rambled on. Of course, I murmured, and then he leaned down a bit further and kissed me gently on the lips, which was lovely. Then again for longer still. Ooh, gorgeous. I wouldn't have minded a bit more of that, but he was talking again, murmuring in my ear. Tell you what, why don't you text the kids if they're concerned about you? Tell them where you are and what you're doing. I stared, managed to concentrate enough to say, Oh, no, I don't think they'd like that at all. I mean, Lucy can be a bit prim. Was that the word? So hard to find any words just now. All a bit confusing. I didn't mean that, he laughed, squeezing my shoulder. I meant to tell them you were signing the rental agreement. Oh, I see, I laughed. Well, I've already mentioned it to Nico, but yes, maybe a family text? Good idea, actually. You mean so there's no argument later? Well, no, I meant in case they have any strong objections now. So sweet, I totally misread that. Gosh, he was nice. I lurched forward for my phone in my bag on the floor, which was a mistake. I experienced a terrible head rush and had to steady myself. I took a few moments, gripping on the coffee table, and then when I was upright, it took me longer than usual to text, and I'm generally a bit of a whiz on the keyboard. Eventually I managed to tap out, Just so you know, I'm signing a document which has discussed giving Cuthbert's partner the right to live at Lastow Mews for the rest of his life. I showed it to Felix. Only fair, he said. Yes, I agree. No, I would add that, in case, like you said, they do question it. I'm just thinking of you. Brilliant. I added, only fair. And then, for good measure, because I was feeling particularly quite punchy and actually quite peculiar, I also think it's the Christian thing to do. Felix frowned. Are you born again? Oh, no, I just thought. So won't they think that's a bit odd? I deleted it with difficulty. To be honest, I just wanted to get rid of the wretched phone and the words and the whole concentrating palaver and send the blinking thing. There. I snapped my phone off. I know he'd said to see if they had any other objections, but I was bored with them now. I mean, irritating children. Done, I smiled, sinking back into the sofa. Perfect. Right. Now I'll read it to you. I groaned loudly. Oh, Felix, must we? Can't we get back to that nice sleepy snuggly thing we were doing earlier? He gently lowered my head to rest on his shoulder with his hand. That? Yes, I purred. That. In a sec, and much more, but first, let me finish this. I'm only on the second page. I moaned low. Felix, we'll be here all night. Why don't I just sign the wretched thing? Are you sure? He produced the pen again. I hesitated. Well, why not? I'm going to sign it anyway when Robin or whoever's seen it, aren't I? It's only a formality. Felix appeared to consider this, and he shrugged. I suppose, okay. Well, if Robin wants to amend anything afterwards, we can always put in a sub-clause. It's not a problem. Oh, good. I picked up the pen. What, even though I've already signed it? Why not? I don't know. I didn't. I mean, I tried to remember. Could you change a contract once you'd signed it? All the proper stuff, the houses, etc., David had done. David. Only very recently I'd thought he'd thoroughly approve of this, but now I wasn't so sure. What was wrong with me? My head was so fuzzy. The room was spinning. Molly, I think I am going to read it to you, Felix said gently. No. I held on tight, tenaciously. We don't want that reading lark again. Actually, I think that's the problem. I think I'm going to pass out with boredom. He laughed. Then he waited. I picked up the pen. And then I don't remember much else because my brain was behaving very strangely. Poor Felix clearly thought I needed more reassurance and was reading again, something about the dotted line. Here, he was saying, at the bottom, and then the date. Which was the 24th, he told me as I gripped the pen, and as he moved the paper closer and basically made it all so easy for me, explaining so sweetly that I'm afraid I don't remember anything else, except that finally everything was taken care of most beautifully and thoughtfully and most delightfully. Phew! The following morning I awoke in a strange frame of mind, in a very strange room, in a very strange state of undress. Good morning. Felix appeared through the open door in a tasteful white waffle dressing gown, bearing a breakfast tray. Coffee, orange juice, croissant for madame? He leaned across and kissed me languorously on the lips. How are you, my darling? I stared at him as if seeing him for the first time. I'm fine, I think. Good. I thought a little restorative coffee might be a much-needed pick-me-up. Yes, it might. Felix, about last night. He murmured. Sugar? Did he mean me? Oh, no thanks. Felix, last night, did we? He looked up. What? I mean, did we, What? Do it. He looked a bit shocked. You're kidding. No. You don't remember? Well, I mean, obviously a bit. I mean, the kissing in the sitting room on the sofa. But that's all? Not in here? No, not really. He blinked in astonishment. Good grief, that's terrible. Molly, you were sensational. I gasped. Was I? Amazing. All your incredible ideas. So athletic. Right, except the thing is, Felix, I can barely move my head. In fact, weirdly, it feels like a solid lump of concrete. Well, I mean, you did have quite a lot to drink. Did I? Well, I've just put 2 empty champagne bottles in the recycling bin. No! 2 bottles? Felix, this sounds so pathetic, but could you just sort of help me up a bit? He laughed. Come on, old girl. He heaved me bodily up in the bed as I clutched the duvet, tucking a couple of pillows behind. Molly, is this sort of hangover usual? No, it's not. I don't drink that much as a rule, and certainly not 2 bottles of champagne. That'll be it. Hang on, I'll get you some aspirin. This was beyond embarrassing. I mean, I badly needed to get out of here, not to be the creaky old lady billowing dog breath all over him and needing to be hoisted up. And what on earth did I look like? When he returned, I took the pills and drank the potion and told myself that in 20 minutes, when they kicked in, I'd be up, showered and in a cab, having kissed him a lingering goodbye. The pills did kick in, but they took a good long while, by which time Felix had gone to meet his dealer in Cork Street. So then I was alone to take stock. After a bit, I got gingerly out of bed and tottered to the shower, making it long but not too hot. Then I dressed very carefully and ordered an Uber. Then I shut the door behind me, and I put the front door key in a pot, which surprised me, but apparently his cleaner had lost hers and came Mondays and Wednesdays. When I achieved Lucy's flat, I fully intended to consult the train timetable and pack and clear out. Strangely, though, I found myself straying to Lucy's bedroom. I looked longingly at the bed. Just 5 minutes. Within moments, Morpheus had claimed me. Some time later, I heard the doorbell go. Or was it a dream? Happily, it stopped, and I went back to my dream. At length, though, it resumed in a more intrusive manner, louder, more persistent, impossible to ignore. I glanced at my watch, realizing I felt almost normal, but then I'd been asleep for 5 hours. It was 4 o'clock in the afternoon. 4 o'clock! Why had I awoken? Oh yes, the doorbell. I darted to the door, but whoever it was had gone away. I set about collecting my things, smoothing down my daughter's bed, and then, just as I was leaving, the doorbell went again. Hello, who is it? It's Henri. I stared at the machine on the wall. Henri? Yes, can I come in? Just a mo. As I opened the door, there he was, Henri Dufois. As he shut the door behind him, I thought how this was the last thing in the world I needed right now, but also the very best. It had been so lovely seeing him last night, until Felix had come along and, well, claimed me. Henri, Molly. Here in the seclusion of a small room, I was almost knocked over by the force of the memories. Not only had we been so much to each other, we represented so much too. A different family dynamic, a different way of being, of living. Sunny, happier times. How did you know where I was? Forgive me, I asked Alice. I had a hunch you would be staying with Lucy. And she knew where? She did. It struck me anew that Lucy had been very secretive about her friendship with Alice. She never mentioned it. She had her reasons for keeping Henri and me apart. I just had a terrible feeling I wouldn't see you again for another 5 years, Henri said. I couldn't bear that. You could have found me earlier through Alice at the farm. I didn't want to instigate anything, burden you with moral guilt. I didn't think it was my place. At the mention of guilt, an ancient roll of terror came loose and unfurled in my head like a blackout blind. I remembered literally staggering from side to side down a long corridor after I'd identified David, realizing as I swayed from side to side what I'd done, each unsteady step ramming it home. For a moment I wondered what I was even doing in this room with Henri. I took a breath to balance myself. At length he reached out and took my hands in his. Moll, he said softly. Henri, don't say it like that, I whispered. You can't still feel like that, not after all this time, after everything that happened. I do. I can't help it. But I do also know it didn't happen to me. It happened to you. So it's easier for me. Yes, it was my husband who died. Exactly. So, because of that, I may as well say it right now. I could never find it again, Henri. Could never feel it again. You mean you could never act on it? No, which is different from feeling it. He led me gently to the sofa. We didn't kill him, Molly, he said softly. I inhaled sharply at the vocalization of it. We did. I mean, we, as good as did, or I did. He lost control and drove his car into a tree, not you. Yes, but... I covered my face with my hands, remembering leaving the morgue, driving home. Henri, I just could never do it to David's memory. You know that. You know me. He nodded. I know, but then last night I thought, his fate. It's as if someone up there thought enough time, enough pain, enough sadness, time to... No, I interrupted softly. David would not want you to be on your own forever, he said stubbornly. True, but he wouldn't want me to be with you. He's dead, Molly. We are the living. My children, I said brokenly. Lucy, particularly Lucy, she'd never forgive me. She knew? She found out. She heard us arguing. He sighed. I often wondered. Anyway, I said, trying to change the mood, the tempo, I'm seeing someone. Oh? Is that so strange? It's been 5 years, Henri. Who? Felix Carrington. Felix Carrington. Felix Carrington is un salute. A what? A cad. He'd sell his own grandmother. You certainly shouldn't be seeing him if you are. And anyway, he's been with the same girl for years, although apparently he cheats on her. I went cold. Don't be ridiculous. You mean his ex, Emmeline? He broke up with her ages ago. So he says, but anyway, no, I don't think that's her name. Yes, it is. She lives in America, I insisted. I was cross now. He stared at me as the full horror dawned. Oh, good grief, Molly, seriously. Don't fall for Felix Carrington. That way madness lies. I haven't fallen for him. I've just been on a couple of dates with him. I went hot and then cold in quick succession. Well, thank goodness for that. Keep it that way. You certainly don't want to end up in his bed. Why not? I gasped. Because you'd just be another notch in his belt. That's why. You haven't already... No, I absolutely have not. My mind flew to last night's lurid antics. Anyway, yesterday you said you barely knew him, I retorted. True. I don't really, only by repute. Which often stems from jealousy. Oh, I am not jealous of that man, Molly. No, I meant the rumours. They could have originated from people who are. We regarded one another angrily. Oh, don't let's argue, Henri. It's so lovely to see you. He nodded. And it is beyond lovely to see you. He opened his arms and I moved easily into them. We held on tight. At length we drew apart, but I knew he wanted to hold me for longer. I looked into his dark, liquid eyes. I don't like to think of you living alone. I don't. I have Alice and Tatiana with me. Oh, they didn't stay with Caroline? They didn't want to. Gosh, I mean, that's quite a compliment. He shrugged. I didn't take it too personally. They would have had Giles knocking around as a stepfather with his abandoned wife and children down the road. Gosh, I mean, no shame. Is that how it all panned out? Caroline and Giles in your house? I thought you said Battersea. They moved there recently. But you left, I mean, not her. Once I knew I couldn't bear to stay. I rented across the river, and the children wanted to come with me. Caroline agreed to it for a bit to let everyone calm down. They just never went back. It all happened by accident, really. The luck falling with me, I suppose. You make your own luck. He shrugged. Maybe, I dare say if I left their mother and went off with another woman, they'd have stayed with her. I gave him a long look. And would you? Have gone out with you? Yes, I would, Molly. I didn't think for a moment I would when we first started seeing each other. Or should I say playing tennis together? You weren't my type at all. I laughed, despite myself. Not pretty enough. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. You thought I was safe. You grew on me. Like bindweed. No, like another skin. I was taken aback. And now I'm going to ask you the same question, Moll. Would I have left David for you? Yes. No, I'm sorry, Henri. I wouldn't have left David for anyone. Not that I didn't love you more than him. I believe at the time I did. I was certainly infatuated with you, but I couldn't have left the children, and I have a feeling they might have done what yours did. Voted with their feet. Exactly. And you wonder how Caroline could have done that, left them. I didn't answer. He held my eyes. Okay, fair enough. So you couldn't have left them 5 years ago, but your kids aren't children anymore. They're young adults. I know. And you can't live by their rules forever? Why not? Because it's unrealistic. And after a while, there's a funny smell. What do you mean? Like burning matter. Oh, for heaven's sake. I went to get to my feet, but he seized my wrists. I mean it, Molly. You cannot live in Perth forever, drifting around Wales with a burning cross on your hands. Herefordshire, and don't make fun of my life. Who told you? Alice or Lucy on occasion. I gasped. I mean, you see Lucy? I told you I live with my children. Their friends come round. You said Facebook. How could she bear to see him? For some reason, this seemed incredibly treacherous of my daughter. I didn't know why. Well, I fumed, bully for her, bully for all of you. How very cosy, how perfectly lovely. Where is it these days, Henri? Chelsea? Pimlico. Pimlico. Splendid. Lots of kitchen suppers, lots of trendy food from fancy cookbooks. Hardly. Lots of chat about poor old Mum up to her eyes in mud and horse dung. Only when I ask, and then only some throwaway line in response, which I have to turn away to hear so she doesn't see my face, which makes my heart pound if she didn't but know it. She's only been around twice, if I'm honest. On both occasions, I was supposed to be away but turned up unexpectedly. Alice knows Robin. His sister is her best friend. Oh, I didn't know that. There was so much I didn't know, so much Lucy had hidden. And the only reason I am telling you? Yes, why are you telling me, Henri? I rounded on him. Is to prove to you that she will be all right with it, Lucy. Eventually. Because she is an adult, Molly. I know you think that it is an insurmountable hurdle, but the fact that she can even set foot in my house when she knows what happened all those years ago. Whatever else he had been about to say was lost as a high-speed jet roared overhead, seemingly inches above us, making us both rather duck in reflex, and certainly drowning words. As its sonic blast filled our ears, he pulled me close to him, as if the unearthly noise was our cover, as if we could enter another world. I buried my face in his shoulder and found his ear. It's been 5 years, Henri. 5 whole years. Tell me they don't just roll back. He had taken my face in his hands, and then I couldn't reply because a whole host of jets, a fleet even. Was it the Queen's birthday? Were we being invaded? So that it seemed as if we truly were in some strange parallel universe, in another country, or another life, a long time ago. He rested his forehead on mine, and we both shut our eyes. The noise, of course, drowned out anything local, anything proximate, like footsteps down a staircase or a key in the door. Voices, even. What it didn't mask, however, was the flood of light pouring into the room, which made us spring apart. At first, all I could see was white light and dark figures silhouetted in the doorway. But in a heartbeat, my eyes adjusted. There on the threshold, shopping bags in hand, eyes wide, faces aghast, stood my daughters. Henri and I froze, transfixed in the glare of their horrified faces. Eventually, Lucy found her voice. It was ominously quiet. I just do not believe you, Mother. The other night I find you getting with some man in a club, then Nico tells us you were groping our vet in the lane, and now this, with him. Henri looked slightly horrified at this news. No, I spluttered. You've got it all wrong, Lucy. Why were you kissing him? I was not kissing him. Why were you so close? Just for old time's sake. For old time's sake? Well, excuse me, but for Pete's sake, you are literally outrageous. Lucy, that's enough. Henri said sharply. You have no call to speaking to your mother like that. This is none of your business. In my flat, it most certainly is my business. And who do you think you are to tell me anything? Isn't it enough that you ruined our lives, forcing us to move, which if we hadn't, Daddy would still be alive and... What do you mean Daddy would still be alive? Minna's eyes were huge and scared. Nothing. She means nothing by it. Lucy, stop it. I was trembling with emotion, but Lucy had already pushed past us and run to her bedroom. She slammed the door behind her and burst into noisy tears. There was a ghastly silence. Minna looked stricken. I'll go, said Henri softly at length. Yes, I whispered. I think that's best. He turned sadly and went to the front door, opened it and then shut it quietly behind him. Suddenly, in a flash, I'd crossed the room and flown after him. Wait, just a minute, I gasped, catching his arm. It's not just Lucy, it's my feelings of guilt. I'd never overcome those. I know, he said. His face was eloquent with pain. I took his hand, shook it, tried hard to explain. It's me, Henri, it's how I am. Don't look so ashamed. What we did wasn't so terrible. I mean, it happens every day. Having affairs, it's part of normal life. It's just that in our particular case, its ends were catastrophic. Only if you believe in cause and effect. Yes, as you do, Henri. I knew he did. I'd lit candles with him, knelt beside him. His mind flew there too, to Notre Dame. So all we have is our memories. Yes, but at least we have those. At length he held out his arms and I walked into them. For the second time in as many minutes, we held on tight. Paris, he whispered in my ear. I know. In time we drew apart. His eyes were full. Then he kissed his fingertips and placed them gently on my lips. With a last sorrowful, crooked smile, he turned and walked away. I watched him go, my eyes brimming, as his familiar figure went down the street. I wondered if he'd turn when he got to the corner, but he didn't. I stared at the empty space for a long time, felt myself rock slightly. After a bit, I collected myself. I turned and walked slowly back to the flat, back to my life. Lucy had emerged from the bedroom when I shut the front door behind me. She and her sister were sitting side by side on the sofa, waiting for me in silence. I wondered if she'd told Minna about Henri. Her eyes told me that she hadn't, and never would. I thanked her silently with mine and took a seat opposite them. Where were you last night? She began. With Felix, I admitted. Lucy's lips tightened. So you stayed the night? Yes, I did actually, Lucy, and that, as I told you, is my affair. I'm a grown woman. So you're sleeping with 3 men? Of course I'm not sleeping with 3 men. Don't be ridiculous. Henri and I were close because, I glanced quickly at Minna, because we're old friends. He had your face in his hands, Minna said furiously. And Paddy kissed me, to annoy me probably, and make me late. And Felix is my own business, and frankly... So it's just this Felix jerk, is it? Who says he's a jerk? Everyone. Well, Robin, who knows him, by repute. Bit of a player, apparently. Suddenly I went hot. Oh, Lord. What's up, Mum? Lucy asked sharply. The document came flooding back with all the force of a tidal wave. That wave broke and crashed right from the back of my brains where I rummaged tentatively only this morning. And on that tide, as the sea came in and then shrank away again, there it was, beached on the sand of my mind, marked Lasto Muse. Had I signed it? I couldn't remember. Did it matter if I had? What was that document? I felt Lucy looking at me. You're not on the bloody pill, are you? Oh, no. I blinked rapidly. Is it possible you're pregnant? Minna said incredulously. Is that why you've gone all red? Aren't you much too old? Yes, she is, but still, here. Go get, just to be sure, Lucy said. Where's she going? I asked, bewildered as the door slammed. Morning after pill, just in case. Lucy, you didn't tell her. No, you know I didn't, and I never would. Thank you. One life in bits is enough. Darling, you can't... What? Blame me forever? She swallowed. I don't, as a rule, only in my darkest moments. I nodded, ashamed. But you knew Henri's marriage had broken up and didn't trust me enough to tell me. No, I didn't. It seems under the circumstances I was right not to. She was very pale. I leaned forward. Lucy, I give you my word, he held me like that to say goodbye. We'd already agreed nothing could ever happen. What I said was true. I would never be with Henri, not now. I saw a flash of trust flit across her eyes, a small light. Thank you, she said in a much smaller voice, like a little girl. She took a deep breath and let it out shakily. It would break my heart. I know. I leaned across and took her hand. I know that, but, Lucy, mine too. She gulped and nodded, and I knew she believed me now, but her beautiful face was white and contorted with grief. The long pent-up emotion, which she hadn't always shown me, was there undisguised. Lucy was the eldest. She'd known her daddy the best, had easily been the closest to him. I moved to sit next to her on the sofa and put my arm around her shoulders. She put her arm around my waist, and I almost cried with relief. I said nothing, though. After a bit, she turned to look at me properly. I'm really sorry I said what I did about this Felix guy. You go for it. Have a lovely time. If you feel he's the one. Yes, thank you, darling, I will. I was uneasy, though, and a little unsure. 2 people now. And Robin was a good soul. Lucy knew as well as I did he was unlikely to make something up, just to appease her. I badly needed to see Felix before he went to Vienna. I sat on the sofa, knees clenched. Obviously, I really needed to go home. That would have to wait until tomorrow, though, because I really needed to see a man about a house, too. I wondered how much time I had. I quickly texted Felix. When are you off? Off where? Vienna. Oh, right. Imminently, my darling. Just en route to the airport now. So sorry not to see more of you, but back in 2 weeks. 2 weeks? I got to my feet. Lucy, I have to go out for a moment. 20 minutes later, I arrived at a familiar Italian cafe. The waiter recognized me and greeted me like an old friend. Then, feeling like a member of MI5, I put my sunglasses on, picked up a newspaper, and pretended to read it whilst looking down through the familiar brick arch to the cobbled mews beyond. At the end, a little black Mini was parked, but I knew if I sat there long enough, it would move. Eventually, a slight blonde figure in white jeans and a black t-shirt appeared through the front door, called a cheery goodbye and left. Then Camilla drove right past me, just a few feet away, heading west. When she'd gone, I tripped across the road into the expensive mews. I needed as much guile and subterfuge and tact as I could possibly muster, none of which were necessarily in my repertoire. But I could dig deep and find them. Oh, yes.